I'll respond analytically and carefully without endorsing violence or taking sides. What follows explains why some Biafra supporters argue that restoration is the only solution to jihadist expansion, and why this claim is contested internationally. Number 1. Argument made by Biafra supporters. Supporters of Biafra restoration usually argue the following chain. 1. Nigeria's central state is weak or captured. Inability to defeat Boko Haram. ISWAP for over a decade. Allegations of ideological sympathy, corruption, or incompetence within state institutions. Failure to protect minority regions, including the Southeast. 2. Jihadist violence advances where the state is weak. Northern Nigeria already heavily affected. Fear of southward spread into Middle Belt and eventually the Southeast. 3. The Igbo region lacks control over its own security. Centralized security structure, federal control of military, police, intelligence, limited regional autonomy to respond decisively. 4. Therefore, a sovereign Biafra would control its own borders and security, prioritize protection of its population, act decisively against infiltration, align openly with global anti-jihadist partners. From this perspective, Biafra is framed as a defensive, not expansionist project. 2. Why pro-Biafra advocates see secession as a security solution. A security centralization problem. Nigeria operates a highly centralized security system. States cannot control police or military forces. Regional responses are slow and politically constrained. Biafra supporters argue that a smaller, homogeneous state could respond faster and more decisively. Local intelligence would be stronger. Community-based security would be more effective. B. Ideological and civilizational fear. Some advocates believe jihadist ideology is incompatible with pluralistic or non-Islamic societies. A state dominated by non-Muslim populations would be safer outside Nigeria. Separation would act as a buffer against Sahel-based extremism. This is a perception-based security argument, not a legal one. C. Historical trauma and trust deficit. The 1966 pogroms and 1967-70 war created a deep trust deficit. Continued insecurity reinforces the belief that the Igbo cannot rely on the Nigerian state for protection. Self-rule is the only guarantee of survival. Security arguments are often driven as much by historical memory as by current events. 3. Why the international community does not accept this as the only solution. From an international law and policy perspective, this argument faces major objections. A. Jihadism is a governance problem, not a border problem. Globally, jihadist groups thrive where governance is weak, poverty and corruption are high, borders are porous. Creating a new state does not automatically solve these issues. Examples: South Sudan gained independence but remains insecure. Somalia's fragmentation worsened extremism. B. Secession can create new security vacuums. International actors fear that the transition period would weaken security further. Armed groups could exploit instability. New borders might be harder, not easier, to control. This is why the AU strongly prefers internal reform over partition. C. Risk of chain reactions. If Biafra seceded on security grounds, other regions might follow. Nigeria could fragment further. Regional instability could actually benefit jihadist groups. This fear dominates global policy thinking. Number 4. The real security question the world asks. The international system does not ask, open quote, is Nigeria failing? Close quote. It asks, open quote, would Biafra be more stable, democratic, and secure than Nigeria? Close quote. To accept Biafra as a security solution, the world would need evidence of clear governance capacity, strong rule of law, non-militarized political leadership, protection of minorities within Biafra, cooperation with regional security frameworks. Without this, the argument remains moral and emotional, not strategic. 5. A more precise way the argument is sometimes reframed. More successful movements do not say, open quote, secession is the only solution, close quote. They say, open quote, if meaningful security reform is impossible within the state, self-determination becomes a last resort, close quote. This framing aligns with international law, avoids absolutism, leaves room for diplomacy. Bottom line, balanced conclusion. It is understandable why many Biafra supporters believe self-rule would better protect them from jihadist expansion. It is not accepted internationally that Biafra restoration is the only solution to jihadism in Nigeria. The world prioritizes security reform, Decentralization, regional counterterrorism, political inclusion. Unless peaceful self-determination is framed as a last legal resort, the security argument alone will not persuade global actors.